Hi, I'm Maggie. I was an only child and my parents adored me, especially my dad. We had a special connection. I was his little princess and he did everything to make me smile. For example, he made each and every one of my birthdays unforgettable. One time, he even ordered a cake that was taller than our house, and then he wrote my name in the sky with fireworks. It was awesome! Wow, is this really all for me? Of course it is, princess. My classmates loved my birthday parties. They knew they'd always be unforgettable. Some of them envied me. Isabella, for example. Look at her sour face. She looked like she'd eaten a mountain of lemons. This is all so tacky. You could always just leave, you know. Don't be rude. I brought you a gift. Don't mind Isabella. She was my sort of friend. We were always competing. For my last birthday, Dad prepared an amazing surprise. I woke up because adorable baby rabbits were jumping on my bed. Dad knew I adored animals and my toy rabbit was my favorite. So he turned our house into a petting zoo for the day. It was indescribable. I even got to keep one of the rabbits as a pet. Say hello to Mr. Sugar. This naughty fluffball loved to chew on my shoes and kept trying to run away, but I still loved him. The only thing that wasn't perfect in my life was the relationship between my parents. Mom and Dad fought like cats and dogs. Seriously, they could spend days on end yelling at each other. Ugh, your socks are lying all over the house again. How could I marry you? How could I marry someone so dramatic? Oh, I always felt terrible listening to them fight. And then, one morning, Dad wasn't there at breakfast. I asked my mom where he was. Your father went on a business trip. He's gonna be gone for a while. What? He left without saying goodbye? That wasn't like Dad, so I called him. Princess, I have a new job. It's very important and I'm not allowed to tell you anything about it. I promise I'll be back soon, though. I was dying of curiosity. What secret job did he get? All I could do was wait. To get my mind off of things, I played with Sugar and I read fanfiction on Wattpad. Tell me in the comments down below if you can't live without fanfics like me. Let's see how many of us there are. My favorite author was Brad. He wrote cool fanfics about Harry Potter and anime characters. Brad seemed like an interesting guy and I desperately wanted to talk to him. However, I was too shy to DM him. He must have had a lot of fans like me. Soon, the annual father and daughter dance was held at my school. Dad never missed it. I hoped that wouldn't change. However, because of that stupid business trip, Dad didn't come. I had to dance with my rabbit. Of course, Isabella made fun of me for it. Dancing alone? Like a complete loser? I'm not alone, I have Sugar. Yeah, and you two look pathetic. Oh, leave me alone. I was mad at my classmate and even more mad at my dad. When I came home, I was in a terrible mood. So I started reading fanfics again. I felt really lonely that night. Maybe that's why I finally commented on Brad's story. Oh my god, he immediately replied and we hit it off. Dude, you should become a writer. Your stories are something else. Thank you. My mom thinks so too. I fell asleep with my phone in my hands. The next morning, I woke up because someone was throwing pebbles at my window. The nerve of them. You're gonna regret this. Dad? Wake up, princess. Adventure awaits. I ran out of the house and I hugged him. Dad apologized for missing the ball and showered me with gifts. Come on, pack your stuff. We spent the whole day having fun at an amusement park and shopping. Dad bought everything I pointed at. I want this dress. Done, my princess. And this phone. It's yours then. In one of the stores, we ran into Isabella. My classmates stared at everything I had bought, green with envy. It felt like I was on top of the world again. That evening, I tried to ask Dad about his new secret job, but he said he wasn't allowed to discuss it with anyone. What a bummer. One day, I'll tell you everything, Maggie. A couple of days later, Dad said he was leaving on a business trip again. I didn't want him to go, but no one was asking me. I said goodbye, and Dad drove away. Then, I noticed that something had fallen out of his pocket. Huh, what's this? Looks like a weird watch. I decided that this thing would help me solve the mystery of Dad's new job, but first I had to find out what it was. Mom wasn't at home, so I couldn't ask her. That's why I took a picture of the device and I sent it to Brad. I need your help. Do you know what this is? Brad said it was a compass and it was mostly used by sailors. Wait, did that mean Dad was at sea? Maybe even the captain of a ship? Wow, thanks. I would never have guessed that. Then I plucked up the courage and I asked Brad if he wanted to meet. Unfortunately, it turned out he lived in another city. After a while, Dad came back and brought me a bunch of other gifts. We had a lot of fun that weekend and we went to a Miley Cyrus concert. Dad never denied me anything and he shared all of my interests. He even subscribed to my favorite private diary channel. If you haven't done that yet, you should totally do it now. Don't worry, I'll wait. Ready? Great, then let's keep going. Things went on that way for a while. Dad would show up, we'd spend a great weekend together, and then he'd go on a business trip again. Now, I knew he was traveling by sea. Mom never joined in on our fun. My parents could barely stand to look at each other. But over time, Dad started to come home less and less often. He didn't even come to the award ceremony for the best students at my school. As I stood on the stage with my award, looking at my dad's empty seat, I could barely hold back tears. You look pathetic once again. Our princess's father forgot about her. Everyone laughed, and I burst into tears and ran home. Mom was at work and couldn't cheer me up, so I texted Brad. He always made me feel better. This sucks. I get it, Maggie. I have troubles at home too. After talking to my friend, I felt a little bit better. I realized I wasn't alone. Brad's relationship with his mom was complicated. Talking to you is so easy. It's a shame we live in different cities. Yeah, I'd love to hang out in real life. That talk cheered me up, especially since my birthday was coming up. I was sure that Dad would never miss it, and he would prepare something just as special as usual. So I printed the party invitations and I gave them to everyone at school, even my somewhat friend. I wanted everyone to see the grand party my father would throw and turn green with envy. I'm gonna be the star of the party. You should come. Oh, don't you worry, I'll be there. Are you sure your dad will throw a party this time though? Whatever. Everyone knows you're just jealous of me. So, on my birthday, all my classmates came over, looking forward to an amazing party. I couldn't wait to find out what Dad had prepared for me either. However, an hour went by, and then 2, and he was nowhere to be seen. Everyone got bored and started making fun of me. Is this a pajama party? Because it's boring me to sleep. Isabella convinced everyone to leave and have fun without me. I didn't know what to think. Dad's phone was turned off, so I was worried something terrible had happened. He couldn't have forgotten about his only daughter's birthday. I ran up to my mom and I told her about my worries. Come on, let's call the police and the rescuers. We have to save Dad. Mom just mumbled that she had a headache and didn't have time for my nonsense. It made my blood boil. Why are you so calm? Don't you care that your husband is missing? And then I remembered that my parents didn't get along. Mom constantly yelled at Dad for every little thing. I told her it was her fault Dad had run away. I can't hide the truth anymore. Maggie, your father and I divorced a long time ago. We didn't want to upset you, so we kept it a secret. He lives in another city now and he only comes here to spend time with you. That news was like a slap in the face. So Dad had moved? There had been no business trips? I wanted to look him in the eye and ask him why he'd been deceiving me for so long, but Mom didn't know his new address. She only knew the city he'd moved to. I immediately decided to go there and find my father. By the way, Brad lived there as well. I texted him and we finally agreed to meet. Then I took my only clue, the compass, put my rabbit in my backpack, and set off. I told Mom I was having a sleepover at my friend's place. What friend? Isabella. We're close as sisters. Ugh, I couldn't believe I just said that. Now I needed to wash my mouth out with soap. I got off the bus, and a handsome guy met me at the bus stop. Wow! Brad was gorgeous. Wow, you look exactly like I imagined. And you're even more beautiful than in your photo. He offered to give me a tour of the city, but then Sugar decided to be naughty and jumped out of my backpack and hopped away. Stop, you dummy! Brad and I gave chase, but we weren't fast enough. Sugar quickly disappeared into the park. Luckily, Brad said he'd help me find my pet. I was very grateful for that. After all, I would have definitely gotten lost in an unfamiliar city. We wandered around all day, but we couldn't find him. Sugar seemed to have vanished into thin air. It got dark and we almost ran into troublemakers. I got scared, but my friend grabbed my hand and we ran through narrow alleyways. Brad acted like a real hero. Our adventures brought us really close together. It was almost nighttime when we finally found Sugar. That shameless fluffball was eating flowers on a flower bed without a care in the world. Why did you run away from me, dummy? I hugged the rabbit and then put him back in my backpack. Then I confessed to Brad that I didn't know where to spend the night. After all, I had expected to spend the day looking for Dad, but we had to chase after Sugar instead. You've already done so much for me, but can I ask you another favor? Could I spend the night at your place? Oh, I would love that, but I ran away from home. He admitted his sister had been born recently, and now his mom only cared about the new kid, so he got mad and left. I set up a tent in the park, and I've been sleeping in there for the past few days. It's pretty small, but we could share. Well, I don't really have any other options anyway. We settled into the tent and spent half the night telling each other about our lives and laughing. I was falling head over heels in love with Brad. I showed him the compass and I told him that this was my only clue. Brad carefully examined the compass and suddenly turned gloomy. I see. I want to sleep, so shut up. Well, okay. I hugged my rabbit and I fell asleep. When I woke up, Brad was already gone. He left a note. It said, "This compass is from the seafood restaurant Helm. You'll find your father there. Forget about me and don't text me anymore. Goodbye." Great. What had gotten into him? Well, at least I knew what to do next. I found the address of that restaurant online and I headed there. Imagine my surprise when I saw Dad. It turned out he was the new owner of the restaurant. I stormed up to him and I asked him why he'd missed my birthday, stopped answering his phone, and lied to me. "Oh, sweetie, I'm sorry. I lost my phone. Let me explain." "Honey, who is this?" A woman came up to Dad and hugged him. I got so mad I almost pounced on her, but Dad stopped me. "Maggie, please don't make a scene. This is my new wife. Let's have lunch together at our place and talk." Of course, I already knew that my parents had divorced, but it was still unpleasant to find out Dad had a new family already. And you know what the worst part was? I came over and saw a baby there. Dad admitted that he'd recently had another daughter. "The baby requires a lot of attention, so I forgot about your birthday, Maggie. I'm sorry about that. I'm also sorry your mother and I didn't tell you about the divorce. We were both unhappy for so long." Hearing that sucked. I was no longer Dad's only daughter, and I wasn't about to forgive Dad for it. Crying, I ran toward the door and I accidentally knocked a photo off the shelf. In it, I saw Brad? What the heck? That's my son from my first marriage. Brad ran away from home because he thought I stopped loving him after my daughter was born. But that's not true. I can't sleep at night without my boy. And I'm sorry. I'm just really worried about my son. I was so shocked I didn't know what to say. So I just grabbed my backpack with sugar and I ran to the nearest bus stop. I wanted to go home and forget all about that disastrous trip. Now, Brad's reaction to the compass had made sense. He realized that we were half siblings and we couldn't be together. It was the cherry on top of that stupid day. I'd almost gotten on the bus when my rabbit got out of my backpack again and hopped down the street. I had had it with him. I ran after my pet and I suddenly saw him jump into Brad's arms. Have you decided to run away again? Maggie, I'm sorry I was so rude and I ran away. It shocked me when I found out your dad was my stepfather. You don't need to explain anything. I already know everything. Before leaving, I told him he should go back home because his mom was really worried about him. You might not be the only child anymore, but your mom won't love you any less because of it. Brad suddenly chuckled and said that we were in the same boat. We were both freaking out because we were no longer the only children, but it didn't make us any less important or loved. You're right. We went to his house and I got to know his mom and my little sister a little better. Her name's Lavender. It's a pretty name, isn't it? I found the strength to forgive my dad, and he promised he would never forget about my birthday again. You're still my little princess, Maggie. Everything was great, except for one thing. I really liked Brad, and I knew that he felt the same. Unfortunately, we were now siblings. Is our relationship doomed? Tell me, what should I do? Psst. Hey, guys, have you noticed that there were a lot of Easter eggs hidden in this video? I mean, Easter bunnies, like these cute lamps. How many of them did you find? Tell me in the comments down below.